This is an oldie but a goodie, and by oldie I mean, it's maybe a month and a half old I drew this, but hopefully you like it, Nation. This is our wonderful swordsman Zoro, and remember to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
One Piece, Chapter 105, Log Pose.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the tantalizing tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw everyone, the Straw Hats, getting out of the whale, Laboon, and really at the end of it we saw Luffy kind of do a selfless thing after knowing what Laboon's past was and how he was basically killing himself, ramming his head into the red line, hoping and waiting for, it's been 50 years now, the pirates that had abandoned him. Luffy goes and starts a fight with him and and attacks him, and then basically goes and calls it a draw and says, okay, listen, when I get back from sailing around the Grand Line, we'll resume our fight again. So just more or less misdirection and kind of giving it, in my opinion, giving the whale a reason to live. So that's how the chapter ended. That's how this one begins. Luffy actually goes and Laboon's got all these scars on his head. But Luffy has used his very terrible artwork, his drawing, to draw the Straw Hat pirate symbol on it. And you see there's a bandage from where he smashed the the top of the mast into him when they had been fighting the last chapter. And he draws on him and he says, okay, now, now no banging your head into the red line over here, okay? When I get back, I want to make sure that, this is still on there, so you know that I'm going to sail the Grand Line, and when I come back, we're gonna fight again. So like I said, I thought it was kind of cool. Nami, it then goes to Nami, and she's like, what the hell, man, my compass is broken, and the compass is going all over the place that they have, and Crocus says, no, there's nothing wrong with your guy, and he basically is like, what is this, amateur hour? Don't you guys know anything about the Grand Line? He explains very quickly after that you need to have what's called a log pose, and this log pose, it almost looks like a little snow globe or something like that. He explains that you need one of these, and a traditional compass doesn't work because magnetic interference from all the precious minerals and things like that are on many of the islands that are within the Grand Line pretty much just throws off any type of normal, magnetic fields that you would have for north, south, east, west, and of course makes it so a compass is useless. So it's really kind of cool because while this is all going on, Sanji is cooking up has cooked up the fish or whatever that elephant bluefin, and it's kind of funny because he wants to give some to Nami, and because he's trying to get some from her, and then Luffy's kind of just eating it up and everything. So that's all going on. But Crocus goes and explains, and we actually see kind of a cool map of the Grand Line, and he explains that basically what you do is you use this to go and take the point from one island to the next, and it'll basically point you to the next one. There's 7 different navigational paths that you can go on that go from island to island, but it doesn't matter which one you take, he says, because they all converge at the end, at the last island, which is and I believe it's pronounced Raftel, Raftel or Raftel. But he explains that this is the final island, and then Luffy says, "Oh, great!" And he says, "Only one person was ever have known to have made it there, the King of the Pirates." So Gold Roger and his crew obviously made it there, and they're the only ones that were known to have made it, reported to have made it that far. So that's what. So then Luffy's like, "Oh, that's where the One Piece is." And Crocus says, "Well, it could be, but I mean, no one has ever made it there." And then Luffy goes, "Yeah, no one until me, until we get there." So obviously he's got the confidence. It's kind of comical because he winds up going, and while this is all happening, he number one, he shows, and when he's talking about a log pose and describing what it is, when Crocus is, Luffy goes, "Oh, does it look like this?" And they're like, "Where'd you get that?" And apparently, Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, when they were on the ship or whatever on the merry-go, they dropped it. So Luffy has this. The whole time that Crocus is explaining everything, and about the navigational and the islands and everything else, Luffy is munching up this fish, right? And he winds up eating the whole damn thing, bones and all. And Sanji gets pissed off at him because he wanted the best part to be for Nami, so he goes and whap, he kicks Luffy. I'm not going to throw my leg up that high because I obviously use the fist, but you get the idea. Sanji kicks. And he nails Luffy and and winds up, nailing him again. And he's pretty pissed off, what happens. So Nami goes and kicks both of them off into the ocean, off into the sea, and basically says, "You guys both need to cool your heads off, right?" And then she's like, now in this whole exchange between Sanji and Luffy, the log pose got broke, and Nami's like, "Great, what are we gonna do now?" And Crocus says, "Well, you know what? For you helping me and helping to save Laboon and everything like that, I'll give you mine. I have a log pose and you can have it." So now they're back in business. They've got a log pose, and it was really kind of cool for me anyway, for them to explain how this all works and how basically the way the Grand Line is and how treacherous it is and everything else. You have to have a bearing to actually get somewhere, otherwise you'd just be sailing out there, and God only knows too what type of I guess monsters or other pirates you might run into. Some of the dangers of it. Of not sailing without a heading. So clearly this is very important, and like I said, I thought it was kind of cool visually just to see the different paths you can take in all these different islands that are on the Grand Line, and then of course finding out about this final island that they're going to be aiming for, it looks like eventually down the line. So then it goes and it takes us over to a little bit further away. We see in the distance, we see Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday. They still have not completely vacated the area, and basically they're looking over at them, and because they want to get their log pose back, and Miss Wednesday's like, "I can't believe you dropped it," and there's some banter back and forth between them. And then they're talking about how they've got to get back, and and obviously they're working for somebody else. So it's not just about feeding their village with the whale. There's some organization they work for, belong to, or whatever. And then we go and we see all of a sudden this big vulture comes swooping in, right? And with this character on top of it that's introduced as Mr. 13, and a sea otter. It's some kind of mysterious sea otter or whatever, and the vulture is called Miss Friday. So we can see that these organization they belong to, it seems like they're teamed up, and it seems like one of them is a day of the week and the other one is a number. So maybe they're like secret agents or whatever their deal is. So they come swooping in, and they're like, "No, we didn't betray the boss. Tell them we just, we got basically got ransacked, got robbed by pirates. So they go swooping in. This vulture comes swooping in, and it's got like this gift. It looks like it's in a gift wrap box, and drops it right on where they are, and it, kaboom, and they get blown into the water. So I'm not sure if it was meant to be like a bomb to wipe them out, or if it was supposed to be something that they were going to drop in to supply them with. They don't really show, but I'm just assuming it was something basically just coming in and trying to take them out. So then they go flying off or whatever. When they go and kind of pull themselves up out of the water and reappear, Sanji and Luffy are right next to them, because of course they got kicked into the water by Nami, and then this is the closest plot of land that they swam to. And Sanji right away is, "Oh, I'll help you, Miss Wednesday," and so you can kind of see his flirty, pervert type of nature. And so then the chapter ends up shortly after that. We go and Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday basically come to to where the group is, and they're like, "Listen, and we find out that they're asking Luffy and company if they can have a ride back to their island. They're obviously their boat's gone, and they just want to get back home." And they're like, and Crocus is like, "I wouldn't trust them, and I mean, and pretty much nobody really kind of trusts them, And Nami's like, "But you tried killing that whale. What the hell?" And they're like, "Please, we just want to get home." And and then Nami goes, "Well, we broke your log pose anyway, So then all of a sudden they're all pissed off, and they're like, "We got on our hands and knees and begged." And she's like, "Yeah, but Crocus gave us his, so we're still okay." And they're like, "Oh, please." They're back to begging, So so basically, like I said, everybody's pretty much against it. And they're like, "I wouldn't want to bring them with or whatever." And then Luffy goes and he says, "That's okay, we'll take you with." So he's going to give them a lift to where they go. We find out that that they're going to be heading towards our next area that we're going to be heading towards is Whiskey Peak, and we don't really know a whole lot about it. We just know that that's where we're going. And we also can see that even though these two are untrustworthy to begin with, I mean, anybody could tell you that, but immediately or shortly after Luffy agrees to take them, they're both kind of like amongst themselves, like, he, stupid pirates. So obviously there's some other kind of plan. They're trying to lure them back to maybe where their boss is that they're talking about. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I guess we'll find out in the next one. So all in all, though, it was a lot of fun, because even though there wasn't a ton of action, I tend to enjoy these chapters a lot. I probably wouldn't if I was at the point now where I was caught up and I was waiting, chomping at the bit, for the next chapter to come out, and then this is the type of thing that I got, because I like to see that adventure, that action. But ultimately, these type of chapters are great because they build the character and they build the world, and that's what's really cool to me is, just for instance, as I mentioned a couple of times already in the review here, is knowing about these 7 different navigational paths and how you have to use this log pose and an untraditional means of being able to navigate, from island to island. And how Crocus says it doesn't really matter which path you go down to go from island to island. So obviously they're going to have to go through this chain of islands to get to the end. So and hopefully, at this point, presumably that's where the One Piece is, or maybe a clue as to where it is. So, and then the chapter ends with kind of a cool thing. We go and we see as they're going to sail off and set sail, we see Crocus go, and I don't know what his deal is. I mean, I know that, everybody tells me that Oda does everything for a reason, and I'm sure this will come back around. But Crocus goes and he says something about, maybe he will actually be, there's something different about him. Maybe he will be the one to get to the, the Raftel, this island. And then he goes, Roger? And what the hell, the only person I know named Roger, other than when you're saying over Roger, that type of thing, is Gold Roger, who we presume has been dead now for 22 years. So I don't know what the deal is with that. And there's nobody else there that I'm aware of. So maybe it's just an old guy talking to himself. I'm sure that there's something to it, though, because that's how the chapter ended off, with this picture of Crocus, And like I said, just all in all, very good. So the question chapter is going to be, would you take, Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday? Would you bring them with and give them a lift? I mean, obviously they were pretty much just your adversaries like a chapter ago. I mean, would you give them a lift, if they kind of gave you the sob story? Like, hey, listen, we may have our differences here, but, ultimately we lost our ship. We just want to get back home. Would you help them? I mean, and not knowing if they had other ill intentions or not, just that, hey, you're kind of going that way anyway, or, you're at least sailing the Grand Line kind of in that direction, would you give them a lift, even though that they had just been bad? So that's the question of the chapter there, I guess. Remember to leave your answers in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think that I deserve it, and then subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
As always, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters, and remember, join the Nerd Nation. It's the right thing to do. Trust me. Tell them Jim sent you.